Okay, so we have come to the last week of the Circuit Breaker series, but I'll still be doing some sharings periodically. So if there's anything that you want to, learn more about, or any questions that you have, you can still let me know, and I'll try to do them in my future sharings. Okay? So in today's video, I'll actually be answering some of the most frequently asked questions by buyers and sellers. So hopefully this will also answer some of your questions. Right? So let's do this. Okay, question 1. If I were to take the CPF housing grants, do I need to pay it back to the government after selling my house? Okay, the answer is no. You don't have to pay the CPF housing grants back to the government, but it will actually go back into your CPF account. And note that the CPF housing grants also incur interest for the duration of your stay in the flat. So it means when you sell your house, you have to put the grants back into your account plus accrued interest. And this can be used to buy your next property. Okay? But if you were to buy a second subsidized house, then you have to pay this thing called a resale levy. So you can take a look at this chart, and this resale levy is only payable in cash. Okay, question 2. Can I keep all my cash proceeds after selling my house? Okay, this actually depends on 3 things. So after you sell your house, are you planning to buy another house? If you are planning to buy another house, what house are you buying? Are you buying a HDB or a private? Right? If you are buying a HDB, are you taking a HDB loan or a bank loan? So if you are actually taking a second HDB loan and your cash proceeds is above 25,000, then you will need to put at least half of the cash proceeds into the next property, which means you can only keep half of your cash proceeds if it's above $25,000. Okay, this is to ensure financial prudence and prevents overborrowing. Okay, question 3. I heard there is no more COV. Is that true? Okay, so this is a very common question that I get from buyers, but this is not true. Okay, there is still COV. It's just that sellers, they cannot ask for it like before. So in the past, sellers, they actually do up a valuation first before selling their house, and they can ask for as much COV as they want, as long as the buyers are willing to pay. But now, the buyers and sellers have to agree on a price first before the buyer actually applies for a valuation. So it's unknown to the buyers or sellers whether there will be any COV until the valuation is out. Okay, so this change in procedure was implemented in March 2014 and has helped stabilize HDB prices a lot. So if you actually look at this graph over here, you can see that after 2014, HDB prices has stabilized all the way until now. Okay, question 4. After I sell my house and put my CPF plus interest back into my CPF account, can I still use it to buy my next property? So yes, okay, after putting back your CPF plus the accrued interest back into your account, you can use it to buy your next property. Question 5. Can singles buy a resale HDB of any size? Yes, singles can buy a resale HDB of any size, but if you were to buy an executive unit, take note that you can only take a bank loan. Okay, question 6. Are option and exercise fees fixed? Okay, so option and exercise fees are actually negotiable between buyers and sellers. For HDB, it can be anywhere from minimally $1 to a maximum of $5,000. Okay, and for a private resale property, usually the option fee is 1% and exercise fee is 4%. But this is also negotiable between buyers and sellers. But because if you are buying a private property, you will need to put a minimum of 5% cash down payment. So even if you were to pay a lower option and exercise fee initially, upon completion, you will still have to fork up the remainder of this 5% in cash. Okay, question 7. How are loans calculated? Okay, so the government actually introduced this thing called the Total Debt Servicing Ratio, TDSR, and the Mortgage Servicing Ratio, MSR, in the year 2013 as a long-term measure to ensure that financial institutes lend and buyers borrow prudently. So the TDSR mandates that all monthly debt obligations, inclusive of the mortgage repayment, do not exceed 60% of the borrower's gross monthly income. And this applies to all property loans, whether residential or otherwise. Okay, so let me give you an example. If you earn $10,000 a month, your monthly debt servicing ratio cannot be more than 60%, which means your monthly debt obligations cannot exceed $6,000. And this includes your mortgage, your car loan, personal loan, credit cards, etc. While the MSR mandates that the monthly repayment of a mortgage does not exceed 30% of the borrower's gross income, and this is applicable only to mortgages granted for the purchase of a HDB or an EC, which means if you are buying a HDB or an EC, and let's say you're earning $10,000 a month, your monthly mortgage repayment cannot exceed $3,000. Okay. So for the purchase of HDBs and ECs, your loan will be calculated based on your MSR or TDSR, whichever is lower. So what does that mean? Okay, so if for instance you earn $10,000 a month, and currently before buying a house, your monthly debt obligations is already $4,000 a month, which is 40% of your income. But because TDSR is kept at 60%, right? So your mortgage loan will be based on 20% of your monthly income. Okay. Okay. Question 8. How much must I earn to buy a condo? Okay, so this really depends on the price of the condo you're buying. But okay, let's use for example you're buying $1 million property. Okay, and we assume that you already have the 25% down payment. In order to take the 75% loan for 30 years, your monthly repayment will be approximately $3,368. So assuming you have no other loans, no other monthly debt obligations, right? And $3,368 is your 60% TDSR, your monthly income needs to be minimally $5,614. Okay, question 9. What is seller stamp duty? Also known as SSD. Okay, so for HDB, there's a minimum occupation period or MOP of 5 years, which means that you have to stay in your flat for minimally 5 years before you can sell it. So if for whatever reason you have to sell within this 5 years MOP period, you will be subjected to SSD. Okay, and for private, there is no minimum occupation period. So as long as you were to sell your property after 3 years, then no SSD will be incurred. So you can take a look at this chart that shows all the SSD amounts payable, depending on which year you actually sell it. And note that this SSD can only be paid in cash. There are actually several scenarios in which the SSD can be exempted, and you can check this out on the IRAS website. Okay, question 10. The last and final question. Do I have to pay stamp duty with cash? Okay, so for HDB, you can pay your buyer's stamp duty and additional buyer's stamp duty for PRs with your CPF as long as there's sufficient funds inside. You know, if there's any shortfall, then you have to top that up in cash. Okay, for private resale property, you will need to pay the BSD and ABSD with cash first and then apply for a reimbursement from CPF. So this is very important to take note because BSD and ABSD can be a very substantial amount, and so it's important to make sure that you have this in cash first. Okay, then for private new launch, you can pay the buyer stamp duty and additional buyer stamp duty directly from your CPF. But do note that all these are for first property purchase only. There are other criteria that have to be met if you are buying second property onwards. Okay, so if you want to know more about that, you can come and speak to me as well. Okay, so that's all I have for you today. I hope this video has helped answer some of your questions. But if you do have any more questions, feel free to reach out to me. Alright, thank you so much for watching and I hope you have a nice weekend ahead. Bye!